All right, welcome to the last therapy ball class for a while. Today we're going to work on calves. We're going to work, I just did a 3-hour massage, so we're going to work on hands and forearms. We're going to a little bit of like around the shoulders. And what else did I want to work on? There was something else, it'll come to me. So you're gonna want to have a block to do some of the arm stuff today, some of the leg stuff. We'll see how much we can fit in, really. We've covered most of this stuff these last few weeks. So we got graced with an extra week of therapy balls this month. So let's go ahead and start with our calves. We're gonna be working up the midline of the calf, so right through the center. This is also your bladder meridian. So if you find that you pee a lot after doing this class, that is part of the reason. I like to have a block handy. We're going to do this next month with the foam roller as well, which sometimes I find it more effective, sometimes I find it less effective. It depends on my body. But if you're finding that you need a little more height because we're going to be flexing and rolling our foot, you can always plop the ball on a block and do it this way. So those are your options. But we are going to run the midline and we're going to start. I got my woolly socks on because it's winter again in New York. 31st of May and it's like 40 degrees. So I want you to kind of grab hold of the top of your heel, bottom of your Achilles, that kind of skinniest part, and you can palpate in there. We're not going to work right on there, but we're going to work up a little bit until you kind of get into the tissue where you're like, oh yeah, that's some good amount of tissue. So it's probably an inch or 2, 3 above that skinniest part. And you're just going to set the ball down. And depending on how heavy your tissues are, some people have really heavy bones and heavy tissue, and some people don't, and size really has nothing to do with it. It's just a weird phenomenon of density. It has more to do with your constitution than with your weight and size. So you might, and also if you're super tender, this might feel really intense. But if it doesn't and you need more, then you can plop your other ankle on top. And I like to bend that top knee a little bit because I want to have full range of motion in my ankle. So if this is super tender, you're just going to hang out. If it's not super tender, then you can start flexing your feet back. And as you do that, you're going to find that obviously there's less space in the tissue for the ball to rest in. So it's going to be a little unstable. And then point. Just flexing up and pointing. So down here is going to be even more unstable. The leg on top helps stabilize it. And usually after you get doing it a few times, the tissue softens and you can get a little deeper into the tissue and you won't roll quite as much. And I really exaggerate. I try to pull my toes back as far as I can go. So I'm really doing complete end range, point all the way through. So when you think you're as far as you can go, see if you can go a little bit further in both directions. And then you're going to start to roll the ankle. Now, I want you to do this without rotating the femur bone or the tibia fibia down here. You want to keep everything above the ankle just nice and stable and just roll the ankle. So this is going to work range of motion in the ankle as you are working the calf. We do a couple in one direction, and then we do a couple in the other direction. And it's normal to feel exhausted. It's the tissues all up and down the leg with this kind of movement will fatigue. So your shin is going to burn a little bit. That's normal. So relax it and just roll that ball up like one ball width. Plop that leg on top. Make sure there's plenty of space for your ankle to roll. And then just hang out in this spot. And I find that my leg will fatigue all the way up into my hip. And that's just because we're not used to rolling our ankles and flexing and pointing over and over and over, typically. And then we're going to start the flex and point. And again, you're looking for that full range of motion. Oh. And it really is like that last little push that tends to really get the tissue to burn. And then rolling the ankle and really focusing on just moving the ankle of the foot, not moving the quad, calf, knee, hip. Make that circle as big as you can so you're hitting all your range of motion. Switch the other way. I'm so happy that I've been doing this with a foam roll for the last few days instead of running right into it with the therapy balls. Really, if I had thought this through, we would have done May as foam roll and June as therapy balls. Just because the foam roll is less intense. Break that tissue in before we run into this. And then we're gonna go up a little bit. So now we're kind of like right in the middle, right where you've got like two lobes of the calf that come down, and then there's another muscle that comes under it. Set that leg, oh, that hurts, on top, and just rest. And now we're like really in that fleshy bit. So it's going to be a little more stable, and it's also going to hurt a lot more. So for me right now, just without even having my leg on top, it hurts. And then we start flex and pull. Make sure you're hitting that full end range. Whew. And then give it a big old roll. So I have been foam rolling my legs in the mornings, and I just grab a book and foam roll and read at the same time. Helps keep my mind off the intense pain and switch directions. And I did an hour and a half the other day. I didn't even notice because I was just like in my book, doing my thing. And I got such an incredible release in through my calves that my ankles were able to adjust. My talus on both feet went back into place, which if you've ever had your feet yanked on in the chiropractor's office can really freaking hurt. And I managed to, without any pain, get mine to adjust on their own. Stop and relax here. And then we're gonna roll it up just one more spot. So we do not want to get in behind the knee. It's just a little too much. And flex and point. And roll in a circle. And switch directions. Oh. And then I'd like to bend that knee and just kind of smack the calf back and forth. And chances are that this tissue along the front of the shin is very tender right now. We've just been working it. So we want to keep working it by grabbing your block and turning to face your block. So you can do this on the floor or you can elevate it. It really depends on the availability of your leg to your face. So what we're doing is you find your shin bone, you can feel that on the medial side of the leg. And then there's that tissue that's always real tender when you go up hills. Then that's what we're going to be working. That and kind of down into the side of the calf, which tends to be really ropey. Like if you kind of grab hold and pull across, it's probably ropey. So we start up at the knee. Another way to find this is you feel your tibial plateau, which is the bone that comes up here. And we just go right under that. Boom. And you're using your own body weight. So I just lean into it. And that might be enough, or you might find that you want to come up and do it there. Pick that foot up. So both are options, just depends on what's going on in your body. Sometimes if your hip is not really open, it's going to be hard to get the knee down to put pressure on it, or it might feel uncomfortable. So yeah, I just lean into it and it hurts like hell. And you can kind of pulse, so you can pull your weight back, shift your weight forward. Or you can just sit in one place. I feel like today might not have been the best day to wear the like crazy pants. Because it's just Not great for explaining anatomy. And then you just pick that up, roll the ball down, one ball width. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. And lean into it. And you can hold or you can rock. Whatever works. I find that this tends to be too tender for me to put all of my weight forward into. And then roll that ball down a little bit more. So now we're kind of mid shin, or yeah, between the knee and the ankle. And this sometimes takes a little finesse to find. So you might need to kind of tip the shin down a bit to get in there because we're moving away from the calf tissue, more into that shin tissue. When you get it, you'll know it. Can also be nice to like, it's just the masseuse in me, but I like to, if I'm already putting weight on things, it's like I start to palpate naturally with my forearm. So as I lean my weight forward, I'm like working the area above my knee on the inside with my forearm. It hurts like hell. So I'm two birds, one stone. But that's not something you necessarily have to do. It's just something I notice that I do because it's what I do for work. I'm always looking for something to palpate and cause pain. It's part of my charm. And let's move it down. Ooh. So now you might notice that both sides, depending again on your hips, you have like a teeter-totter situation going on here. So you can put weight on both sides. And again, you have to shift a little bit to find the right kind of direction of pressure. So you can play with the ball a little bit until you get a sweet spot and then hang out there. And it can feel good to teeter-totter back and forth if your hips allow that. By good, I mean hurt. And now that we're down that low and you've got that foot off the ground possibly, you can get wild and start to point and flex the foot, and that should really hurt. And then come up and we move it down. So we just got 2 more positions to go. So you want to kind of play with it so that you've got enough room. And again, you got to find that right angle for you. Chances are your knees probably on the ground now with the foot up. Now, you might be up on a block as well. And so you're kind of more here. You might also find more pressure if you're up on a block. So play with everything. You might need to put another block under your knee to support it as well. So I kind of, when I get down here, I do like to put it up on a block because it gives me an extra hip opener with it. And I'm all about multitasking my stretching situation. Again, you can flex and point as you work through here. And I'm using my upper body to put extra pressure. You could even do ankle rolls here because this area gets real grumpy from all those ankle rolls. So this is a good way to work it out. So the therapy ball is going to move it down. So now we're right above the crease of the ankle on that kind of funky tissue area on the outside. This is, the therapy balls and the foam roll are something that you can do while you're watching TV, while you're sitting on the floor, kind of playing with the kids, while you're reading, while you're talking to people, listening to podcasts, on Zoom meetings, for work, whatever you got going on. We always say we don't have enough time. I don't have time to do that. The truth is we're just not making proper use of our time. We can multitask very easily. And something I always say to myself, because I have a tendency to procrastinate, is if you can sit and waste how much time I just wasted on Instagram, you can go downstairs into the yoga studio and do 20 minutes of stretching. Like, we have so many excuses for ourselves as to why we can't do things. When in reality, it's just that we don't do them. It's easier to mindlessly scroll through our phone than it is to get off our ass and do the things. And something like this, like I could easily be scrolling through my phone at the same time, and getting whatever fix I needed to get out of that while stretching. So while we're here, we might as well do a little bit of IT band because it's the same thing. I do teach like the IT band where you roll like this up and down. It's like an advanced thing because it hurts like hell. So we're working that outer seam of the pant leg, IT band, TFL. We're just going to work through there. Same way we just worked the side of the calf. And depending on how open your hips are, you might be kind of more, if the hips are tight, this position, even this position, and leaning your weight forward to get in and out of it. And again, I'm palpating my inner thigh at the same time with my forearm. So I'm doing essentially the work of a ball using the line of my forearm. Move the ball up a little bit. And lean into it. I actually feel more pain on my inner thigh than my outer thigh. Sometimes that's the way it is. It's been so gross here this entire holiday weekend. I mean, just rainy and cold. And it actually looks like it might be warmish out. Like the sun's out for the first time since Thursday. It's beautiful. and then roll that down a bit. Or rather, I guess it's up, but it's down in direction of gravity. Okay, so now we're entering the teeter-totter space. I should probably turn sideways so you can see really where I am. Boom, right there. Where I could, in theory, pick my butt up and drop my knee down if I wanted to cause myself a great amount of pain. But instead, I'm just gonna hang out here. Oh. And then try to relax the hamstring. Because I notice that when I'm in pain, I will tighten. So relax. You know, that might sound impossible. Okay, and then one more position, we're gonna roll right up under what's called the greater trochanter. So it's the little ball, kind of looks like this, at the head. So this would be your femur, and this would be greater trochanter. It's the ball that fits into your hip socket. So we're just below that. And depending on where your body's at, you might be able to lift yourself up and drop the knee down. It just, I mean, as long as it hurts, isn't that the point? Doesn't matter where you're at. As long as you're in pain, I'm happy. And this is where we were kind of, if you send your hip forward towards the sitting bone, this is kind of that sweet spot we were in that very first day when we were working the pelvic floor. So, I mean, you can really, from this place, just go like roly-poly, roll around, get yourself in all sorts of shapes, work into that hamstring. You know, whatever works for you. And then just for fun, because we're here. We're the side seam. Okay, I want you to come up above that greater trochanter. Okay, so I'm actually about the same height as my hip bone. I have my hip bone. These are the worst anatomy pants. I don't know what I was thinking. So we're essentially going hip bone, side seam, right in between. And then just I'm gonna lie on that. Just pretend you're at the beach. And you can kind of tip your pelvis around. It hurts so good. I rock my pelvis forwards and backwards, and then I kind of shear my pelvis side to side. Oh, and then we're already like lying down, so we might as well just roll off the ball. Oh, take a little moment on the ground. Go ahead and roll yourself up. You might find that you can crack your ankle. The best way to do that is to sit on your heels and then tip back. Oh, yes. Lovely ankle crack. And then we'll switch sides. And we will start at the beginning. Switch balls so that you know that you're always breaking them in evenly. And so we are going to go, we're going to grab that Achilles right above the heel and kind of wiggle it and squeeze on either side of it. Just a little self massage. And we're gonna go up until where we really start to get into some tissue. We'll put the ball there, set it down. Oh God, we just spent 30 minutes on that one leg. We might just do that today. And reflex and point. This is why when I teach a full body workshop of this, it's 2 days and it's 4 hours a day. Because there's so much to go over. And people just have they just melt. It's unbelievable. And I will be doing that maybe at the end of July. If not, it'll be in August. It'll be a live workshop when we roll the ankle. So it means if you are in the Maryland area, I'll be teaching at a studio there. And I'll also be live streaming it. So if you want to get in on that class, it'll be a 2-day affair. And then switch and roll the opposite way. And then move the ball up. And rest. You can put the leg over, whatever works for you, however much pressure you need. And flex and point. Circle. And switch directions. Rest. And then move the ball up. So now we're right where those little lobes come and meet that other muscle and under it. Oh. Oof. Getting a little more meaty here, so you should be more stable, shouldn't hurt more. Flex, point. We're looking for that full range of motion. roll. Switch directions. Again, it's normal for you to start have fatigue through the whole leg. Normal for you to pray for a swift end to this class. Not as bad as last week's squats, though. That was a special kind of hell. Thank you, Mayumi. And then go ahead and roll that ball up. So now we're like really in between those two lobes, kind of up here. This is the last position. Sit and rest. My left side is way more tight than my right. That makes sense. I broke my left foot. I've had 4 surgeries on my left knee. So, of course, I've got a lot more scar tissue, a lot more compensation happening. It's going to be more pissed. Point and flex. Ooh, roll. Switch directions. And then just one more up. Not in the back of the knee. So you kind of feel where the back of the knee is, and then you feel it start to slope into the tissue, or right after it starts to slope. And point and flex. And circle. And circle the opposite way. come on off. Give that calf a little punch slap. You might want to have your block handy as we go down the side of the leg. So again, we're working on the side seam, just kind of slightly in front of that side seam. So if you find that tibial plateau, so we go to the bottom of the kneecap, out to the side, and you'll find nubbies, and then there's tissue right there between the bone on the front and tibial plateau. You find all that tissue. It's also stomach, small intestine. And you might want to put this up on a block. It all depends on how it feels in your body. And then you just kind of lean into it. And I like to rock back and forth because then I also palpate with my forearm on my inner knee and inner thigh and work all that tissue. It's really hard to get into the inner thigh and the knee with a therapy ball. We'll do that with the foam roll next month. But the therapy balls are kind of just, for most people, a little too small for our range of motion. If you have really open hips, then you're absolutely going to be able to easily get in there. But if you don't, like the majority of us, then you're not going to be able to. It's just going to be a waste of time. But you can hit that area with your forearm now. And again, if your hip doesn't drop open wide enough, you can be working here with the block. And in all honesty, if like you have insane openness and you're not feeling anything, putting your hips up and then putting more weight down into it might be an option for you too. But that's a whole other level. I feel like I spoke too soon. Now the sun's gone. Come back. Okay, so we're going to just move that ball, one ball width down, and go right back to working that tissue. And then go down. So now we're right at that teeter-totter point. You could lift that foot up and rock back and forth, or you could just rest here. You could palpate by rolling into it, and you can start your point and flex situation again. And it's amazing how much you're going to be able to get your feet to crack, ankles to crack. I can get my knees to crack usually after doing all of this. It's just like such sweet, sweet relief. And then we're gonna roll down. So we gotta make sure we got enough room for this spot and then one more. And now you might need, because we have so much less tissue, you might need to start kind of tipping forward and really moving the ball a little forward, a little bit backwards to find sweet spot. And the foot's probably up off the ground, so you can point and flex, and that should hurt like a bugger. Whew. And then we'll take it down to that last little spot. And this one, typically you have to kind of tip more forwards for. And should feel really horrible to point and flex. Oh, that's so much fun. Oh, okay. So let's do the IT, TFL. So again, we're working side seam, just up past the knee. Kind of the same way we've been working. And depending on where you're tight, you might need to roll the ball more towards the top of the thigh or more towards the back of the thigh. But I can turn sideways so you can see it right there. And then I again start in with my extra body work on the inside. And you'll have to just move your body around so you can find the right amount of pressure. Oh, that's it. Roll that ball up a little bit. Again, you might need to go kind of back towards the hamstring or forwards towards the quad. Ugh. Try to let all of the tissue soften. So the hamstring relaxes, quad relaxes, butt relaxes. I can't even move. This one hurts so bad. Roll it up a little bit more. So now we're kind of mid-thigh. And this is kind of that teeter-totter point where you could teeter-totter. But you probably don't want to because that would hurt really bad. And I can really adjust my amount of pressure here just by rotating my pelvis. So the more I push my pubic bone away from my belly, the more I push downwards into the ball. All right, so now we're going to work just below the greater trochanter. So again, femur bone, thigh bone, hip socket, greater trochanter. My anatomy skills, I tell you, second to none. Making little hand puppets. Oh, now you can really drop your weight onto the knee. And last part will be above the greater trochanter. So you find your hip bone, you find above the greater trochanter, and then the little space in between there. And you get curious. And roll around on it. And you can start to just move around anywhere you really want to. Anywhere that feels bad. The badder, the better. the baddest. Oh. We're almost there, guys. We're like 30 seconds from Shavasana, I promise. And then you're going to roll onto your back. And I totally didn't get to half the things I wanted to get to because the legs ran away with the class, pun intended. Whew. Good job with all that suffering. Wiggle the hips. Whew. Just luxuriate in your endorphin haze after all of that self-massage. I literally feel fuzzy from like my belly button down. I want to just do a couple little stretches right here after our mini Shavasana. So roll over to one side and swing yourself up to seated. Legs out in front of you and just feet hip width apart or maybe even wider. Relax the legs and drop forward. So when we open up the legs in the manner that we just did, you're going to open up the glutes a little bit as well, and that's going to feed up into the back. So just find this to feel so good and open after I do therapy balls. Like you wouldn't think that your calves really affect your spine, but they do. It's unbelievable. So I am so much more open after opening up my calves and opening up my IT bands. And then I want you to open up into an open butterfly. So not a tight butterfly, we'll get there. An open butterfly and dropping down there. Rolling up, pull those feet in with you. Grab hold of your ankles and then fold forward, pressing your elbows into your knees. Oh, dear baby Jesus. So if you are palpating through your inner thighs, through all of class, this should feel a lot better than maybe it normally does to you. Beautiful. Roll up, grab hold of your foot, cup your hand over the edges of your toes and roll it down and see if you can get a nice crack for each foot. Oh, yes. And then we'll roll over and do the same thing we did the last time. Lean back, pick up. Oh, yes. Get the crack through the ankles. And then you can kind of drop those knees down and open the chest and belly up. A little bit of a quad stretch. Oh, chest opener, heavenness. Take a few deep breaths. Feel that stretch melt down into the arms, being that we didn't get to them. And then walk yourself up. Whew. And you have new legs. Yay. Not where I thought we were going with class today, but I'm happy we went there. So I wish you well on your walking. When you get up off the mat, it should feel super open and new and different. And it's normal if you kind of cramp up at first, but just take it easy, stretch a little bit as you go, and enjoy your new legs. Namaste.